on villanelle poetry. The word villanelle comes from the Italian word villano, which translates to peasant. They were originally songs during the Renaissance period that were meant to be danced to by peasants. Some French poets made villanelles which were free from rhyme or structure and would have simple themes that catered towards their peasant audience. There is some debate about when the form of villanelle was first used, but we do know that in the late 19th century, the French poet Théodore de Benneville declared villanelle as a fixed form for poetry. The form of the villanelle is made up of 5 3-line stanzas and then ends with 1 4-line stanza, which is a total of 19 lines. The repetition is of the first and third line of the first stanza, and these lines will alternate as the last line of each stanza, and then will be the last 2 lines of the 4-line stanza. For rhyming, the first and third line of each stanza must end in a rhyme, then the second line of each stanza must rhyme with the other second lines of each stanza. I know that's very confusing, but I'm hoping that this slide will help. Looking here, we see that A1 is the first refrain, which repeats as the last line in the second and fourth stanza, as you can see here, and then once again in the sixth stanza. You can see it right there. And then the A2 represents the second refrain, which repeats as the last line in the third and the fifth stanza, and then once again the very last line of the sixth stanza, which follows up the first refrain. Any line that is a lowercase or capital A must all end with the same rhyme, and then the lines with a B must end in a different rhyme, and those are the second lines of the stanzas. Some famous villanelle poems are Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night by Dylan Thomas, The Waking by Theodore Roetheke, and One Art by Elizabeth Bishop. Here's a part I really liked from Thomas's poem. Grave men near death who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay, rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on that sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of light. That is the end of it, as this is the 4-line stanza that ends the poem. Another excerpt I liked from Theodore's poem. I wake to sleep, and I take my waking slow. I feel my fate in what I cannot fear. I learn by going where I have to go. We think by feeling, what is there to know? I hear my being dance from ear to ear. I wake to sleep, and I take my waking slow. This is the beginning part. There's his first refrain, and then the third refrain, and we see that this first refrain is repeated there in the second stanza as the very last line. Lastly, here's an excerpt from Bishop's poem. Then practice losing farther, losing faster. Places and names where it was you meant to travel, none of these will bring disaster. I lost my mother's watch, and look, my last, or next to last, of 3 loved houses went. The art of losing isn't hard to master. The reason I chose to do a villanelle poem was because it originally seemed appealing to me. I liked the repetition because it gave the effect of someone either stressing their point or thinking hard about their life. It seemed complex and challenging to me, and I was up for a challenge to try to make a villanelle poem. I ended up choosing my form first because I was a little lost about what my theme would be. Once I chose to do a villanelle poem, though, I just started writing until I got to a topic I liked. This is my poem, FOMO. It all made sense in my head that I was set up for success, but what if I've been misled? My thoughts wander while on my bed, past choices that caused me stress. It all made sense in my head. I know I can't see far ahead, yet there's fear I can't express. What if I've been misled? It's the same thing always said, work hard now to later work less. It all made sense in my head. Is this how my story will be read? They just wanted to see progress, but what if I've been misled? I'm left with the dread that knowledge is all I possess. It all makes sense in my head, how I've been misled. The title of my poem is FOMO, which means the fear of missing out. I feel that many students are forced to focus on school and extracurriculars so much so that their whole life revolves around that. This usually happens from wanting to please the family and friends who encourage them to excel in school by working too hard and avoiding a social life. And this may not be everyone's circumstance, but it happened to be mine and a lot of the people around me. I would want anybody who reads this to enjoy life while they can and to not let school swallow up their entire life. Just have fun while you can. Thank you so much for watching.